Hey Flower Tribe, it's Kelly Lehman from Cranberry Fields Flower Farm, and today I want to give you some great tips. If we haven't met yet, it's nice to meet you. My name is Kelly Lehman. I'm the owner of Cranberry Fields Flower Farm here in Cranberry, New Jersey, and I love giving you guys fun, free flower tips. So please feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit that bell notification so you know whenever I post another fun, free flower tip video. If there are still some green buds on the plant, like I have over here on this hydrangea that's going to come in on the old wood, if you're still seeing signs of this new growth, these, delicate green buds, then by all means cover them when temperatures are going to go down to freezing. So even though the first 2 nights this plant was not covered, it's still doing pretty well. And a few reasons why I think it's still doing pretty well is, number one, it's kind of tucked in here in my backyard. It's tucked in against this arborvitae tree over here. And there's like a little stone bar here. And so I think that kind of blocked a lot of the wind. And, so it didn't take a beating from those, super cold winds. And another thing that I think helped it is that I left a lot of the blooms from last summer in place. And I usually do this, number one, because I think that it offers a little bit of protection to these new buds. But I also think that it adds some beautiful winter interest, especially when it snows out. And I think that it offers like a little bit of protection for some of the wildlife. So that's one of the reasons why I leave those in place. And if you'll notice over here, I also leave some of my grasses in place for, that protection for some of the birds. We've got some beautiful blue jays that live back here. And I think it also provides some protection for some of the little critters. I covered some of my endless summer hydrangeas. So what I did was I covered as many of my mop-head hydrangeas with sheets. So I just went inside, I got some old sheets that I used to use for Halloween, and I actually just secured them to the plant using zip ties and using some clothespins, anything I can get my hands on, because it was very last minute. The best way to do this is to actually surround the plant with some poles and then just wrap the cloth around it, or wrap some burlap wrap around those poles. But I didn't have enough time. This had to be super quick. It was getting super cold, super fast, and I just wanted the job done. The best way to do it is to have that cloth or the burlap wrap go all the way to the ground. And so this is what my endless summer looked like when we were getting ready for those, that snowstorm that came in out of the blue. Now, my limelight hydrangea and my endless summer were a totally different story, because I know that those hydrangea come in on what's known as new growth. So I took a look at my limelight hydrangea, my Annabelles, my Incredible hydrangea, and I realized that there was no new growth on them just yet. And so since there was no signs of green on them, I knew that there was nothing for that winter zap to freeze off. So there was no need for me to wrap any of those hydrangeas because there was no signs of that new growth just yet. By April, usually the endless summers are kind of in that full leafy mode right now. A lot of mine on the side of the house look like that. But there's a lot of my endless summers that are in the front of my house that experienced something called winter zap, or that I call winter zap. And they look horrible, and they have no leaves on them. So I'm going to walk you outside. I'm going to show you why I think this happened. The hydrangeas that I was able to cover seem to do really well, and that's why they have these green leaves right now. And there was a whole bunch of hydrangeas that I didn't get a chance to cover that are right next door to them, and you can tell they experienced that winter zap. So those new fresh buds that should have been leaves right now and that would eventually turn into stems and blooms, they were actually frozen off. And the same thing happened to the hydrangeas that were in the front of my house. They were exposed to even more wind and colder temperatures, and they had hardly any protection. So they experienced that winter zap also. So they had a lot of frost damage, and all those buds were frozen off. So they did not do well by any means, but there's some new growth coming in from the bottom of these plants. So I think that that's okay, because I'm just going to wind up missing out on the first flush of flowers that should come in the beginning of summer. But I have great faith that I'm going to wind up getting some beautiful flowers coming in from the new growth in the base of the plant, because endless summer, they have 2 different, flushes of flowers. So that's the good news. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and just cut off some of those dead branches that are on the plant right now. I can pretty much tell which stems have those viable flowers and which ones are just dead. They just were damaged too much. So I usually do not prune back my endless summer in spring, but the ones that experience the severe winter zap, I'm going to come in here and take a look at the branches that are totally dead, They're going to have just white centers. There's going to be no sign of green, and those are going to cut back because I don't want the plant to have to support all that dead weight. And I'm also going to get rid of branches that may have holes in them. They may have like cane borers that were inside of those. Those are the insects that kind of eat away and leave little holes in the branches. And I'm also going to get rid of any crisscrossed branches because they're rubbing up against each other and, they're like weakening each other. So I'm going to get rid of the skinnier one out of those two. And I'm going to cut out any dead, damaged, and diseased branches from these endless summer. It's also a good time to shape them. You might want to give it like a little bit of a haircut in case they got a little bit too large for the area that you want. Now's a good time to see where some of those dead branches are that are sticking out, like on sidewalks and walkways. Now's a good time to give them a little bit of a trimming back. But know that whatever you trim, any kind of green that you trim off, you're probably getting rid of the blooms that would have come from those branches that would have come from those stems. If your endless summer are looking more like this, then I would leave the plant alone unless there were just a couple dead branches. I would clean it up as little as possible because you're going to wind up cutting off this year's blooms if you really start hacking into this plant, because as you can tell, it has those really beautiful green leaves on them. So this is the type of hydrangea I would pretty much leave alone at this stage of the game, unless I saw something like this, which once again, you see all this green growth, and then you'll see one or two of these stems that have nothing on them and they look really dead. There's probably a cane borer in there. So this is the only time that I would come in and get rid of this dead branch on this plant, and I can probably take this one all the way down to the ground, or at least I see a little bit of new growth down here. So I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm going to wind up cutting it right about here just to get rid of that dead weight. So the rest of these endless summer that have the new growth on the side of my house, I'm totally going to leave alone so that I get beautiful flowers. Temperatures are finally starting to warm up. I'm going to get rid of some of the leaves that are on the plants because I want to wind up giving these flowers a lot more aeration. I want to give them some space to get some sunshine. I want to let them breathe, and I want to make sure I don't have any kind of mold issues because I've got a lot of, like dead leaves all around here, both from the plant and from some of the leaves that we just kind of blew in from like the garden. So we're going to take care of that first. And these are some of the steps that I use. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a leaf blower to kind of cheat because I'm going to do some of the raking, but I want to get in here and kind of get some of those leaves kicked up first. So let's take care of that first. And I'm using this DeWalt leaf blower. This is not a paid endorsement. This is just one of the leaf blowers that I like to use because it's very light and it's got like an electric charge, so it's very easy to kind of tote around. So I'll put a link to this in my Amazon shop page below just in case you were looking for a new leaf blower. So let's get these guys out of here. Sorry, Lou. And now we're just going to come in here with the rake to kind of get rid of some of the other leaves. Lucy is not giving up her spot because it's like right in the shade. And then I'm going to go in and clip off some of this brown, like winter's apple. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and please say hi to us over on my Cranberry Fields Instagram page and also on my Kelly Lehman's Flower Tribe Facebook group, because there's thousands of gardeners from all over the world and they're asking and answering loads of garden questions over there. And please also check out my brand new garden podcast, and I have about 50 hydrangea care videos that I will link to the end of this video in my hydrangea care playlist. And please also let me know where you're viewing this from in this great big beautiful world. I love to see how our flower tribe is growing around the globe each week. And you can also check out my online flower courses. All of these will be in descriptions below, and I will see you in the next video.